Patrick Mahomes has continued his excellence this year, but he's had a couple of week injury. And so the question that is out there, you can have either of these guys for the next 2 weeks. Sorry, the next 5 years. Next 2 weeks should be fine too, but the next 5 years. Which one are you going to take? Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson? Over 6,000 of you have voted in the first 50 minutes of this poll. If you want to go vote yourself, you can go to @ClayTravis on Twitter. Lots of feedback, lots of response. Danny G, which one are you taking?
Well, it's not as easy to me as it might be to everybody else because, well, first, let me say I love everything about Mahomes. Before the season started, we all made our Super Bowl picks on the show right here. Mine was KC in Minnesota with Mahomes winning the
I don't even remember what I picked. What did I pick? Did you write them down?
Yeah. They're on the wall over here. Clay is right down there. Yep.
At the halfway point, I'm curious.
You picked the Chiefs and the Saints, and the Chiefs as the winner.
Okay. I mean, I feel like both those teams are at least going to make the playoffs. Who on the show has the worst pick right now? Does anybody have the?
If you could pull that off the wall there, if it'll come
all right,
off,
but in the
Roberto.
meantime, you can tell us. Who would you go with, Mahomes or Jackson?
So I'm going to go with Jackson, and here's why. Now, I picked the Chiefs also to win the Super Bowl with Mahomes as the MVP hoisting the Lombardi. But I don't want to make it unanimous on our show because I think everyone else is going to pick Mahomes, and that's always bad luck on our show. I could make the argument that Lamar can take more punishment than Mahomes. I've seen Lamar Jackson take some hits where I held my breath, and I was like, oh, that didn't look good. He gets up and he laughs. Now, I understand what you're saying. You don't want to put your quarterback in a position like that because one of these times something is going to bend in the wrong direction and it's going to be all bad. But we saw Mahomes run the ball near the goal line and bust a kneecap. He did look good in Mexico City. I agree with you. So it's nice to see him getting healthy and coming back. I don't mind being the odd man out here. I'm going to say Lamar, and the reason why is because we know who Mahomes is, which is truly elite. But if Lamar Jackson improved this much in just one offseason, then I'm wondering what he'll be capable of in the years to come. I mean, I would sign up for 5 years to see what he can do.
Yeah, I think it's Mahomes. What about you, Dub?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mahomes, too. It's just impossible to bet against him because, in my opinion, you could put Mahomes on the Bengals, the Dolphins, Redskins, pick any awful team you like. I think they would probably make the playoffs next year if just you put Mahomes in as his quarterback.
Yeah, that's a strong argument. If you had a decent – I know that Andy Reid is a great fit for Patrick Mahomes, and I do think he's in a good situation there with an offensive juggernaut of a coordinator and head coach. But I do agree with you that if you suddenly just took Patrick Mahomes and you put him on a bad team in the NFL, there's a good chance he could get him at minimum to the wild card.
Yeah, and I'm not sure you can say that about anybody else other than him and probably Russell Wilson. Those are the two guys I think you could, plug into anywhere and they would have great success wherever they play. So for that reason, that's my logic in going with Mahomes here.
Yeah, 76% of the voters right now agree with you, Dub, and are taking Mahomes. What about you, Eddie Garcia?
It's Mahomes. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson is a great playmaker. He's not a great passer in my eyes at this point. He has not had he had a 300-yard game once. That was the opening week where he was bombing away against Miami. He's had 4 games this year where he hasn't even passed for 200 yards, including last night. And you could say, well, he didn't have to. But that's my point. I need to see him win a game with his arm. I need to see him with the Ravens not getting off to a great start, falling behind, having the running game contained, and he's going to beat the opponent with his arm. I haven't seen that yet. I don't believe he's going to do that in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes is the answer. What
about you, Roberto?
I'm also going to go with Patrick Mahomes. Lamar Jackson, what he's doing right now is great, but we kind of saw this with Colin Kaepernick. Greg Roman did that with Colin Kaepernick, and it didn't last very long. I think the same thing is going to happen with Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's on fire right now. I think this Ravens team could get to the Super Bowl, though, because their defense is really good. But I'm going with Patrick Mahomes all the way.
Am I crazy for saying this? Do you remember when the movie Black Panther came out? And if you said anything, did everybody see the movie Black Panther on the show?
Yeah.
If you said anything other than Black Panther is the greatest superhero movie that's ever been made, Twitter lost their mind and they called you racist. Right? Do you guys remember that? You could only say that Black Panther was the greatest superhero movie ever made. And I remember I went on Twitter and I was like, hey, You know what? I went and watched Black Panther. I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was as good as the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I didn't think it was as good as the Avengers movies. Like, I thought it was an average superhero movie. And people were like, oh, my God, that's so racist of you to think that Black Panther isn't the greatest movie that's ever been made of all time.
I didn't
right?
watch it.
You never saw Black Panther?
No.
Well, you're super racist. You're even more racist than me.
I saw the Brown Panther.
Yeah. So you're still holding out hope for the Hispanic superhero, which hasn't happened yet, right? Is there a Hispanic superhero?
Yeah, they call him El Chapulín.
Is that? I have no idea. They're
that's
making
real.
one now.
No,
a
it's
Hispanic
real,
superhero. Okay,
Yeah.
So you're holding out for the Hispanic superhero, but did everybody else see the Black Panther? Does anybody believe it's the greatest superhero movie that's ever been made?
I did think it was very good. I
Okay.
thought it was very good.
Was it the greatest superhero movie that's ever been made?
No.
The Dark Knight.
It's one of the best.
It's nowhere near as good as the Batman Dark Knight trilogy, which is the greatest, if you really want to break down the greatest superhero movies have ever been made. The Christopher Nolan, the Heath Ledger Joker, that is by far the
Hands
greatest
down.
superhero movies that have ever been made. All right? It's dark, it's stormy, it's like incredibly well done. It's not even, I don't even think fair necessarily to call it a superhero movie. So Black Panther is like a candle in the wind compared to that. But you couldn't say anything other than it's the greatest movie of all time. We're right there with Lamar Jackson. Like, if you say anything other on social media, then Lamar Jackson is the greatest quarterback who's ever played the game. Like,
But there's a reason for that reaction, though, Clay, because you went extreme the other direction.
No, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about anybody. It doesn't matter who
because
the
you weren't
person
the
is.
only one. A lot of people went hard extreme the other direction.
There's hardly anybody saying anything negative about Lamar Jackson
Now,
on the
but
entire internet.
Are you kidding me? When the season started, especially after that playoff loss, it's the only
he was
time
atrocious.
It's the only time I've ever argued with Roberto on Twitter. In fact, before the season began, I talked about how I saw some Ravens blog talking about how hard Lamar Jackson had worked. And my comment was, I think a lot of people are underestimating this dude just because of that playoff loss.
But the quarterback position in general is one where you get ripped to shreds every week, pro or con, no matter what your background is.
You're making it seem like everybody was waving this Lamar Jackson flag from the start.
I have never seen a level of you can't say anything. Like what Eddie just said. I don't know how sustainable this is. Oh, that's racist. I'm not sure that he's a great pocket passer. Oh, that's racist. It's not even like a disagreement. It's any single thing that you say that is in any way other than Lamar Jackson is the greatest quarterback in the history of mankind, much like with Black Panther when that movie came out. Any criticism at all is immediately branded racist. I've never seen it.
You picked Joe Flacco over Lamar Jackson.
Last year,
I
did.
So that would be like picking Shaq's movie Steel over Black Panther.
That's not true.
Yes,
Joe Flacco has won a Super Bowl. As good as Lamar Jackson is right now, he's never won a playoff game, and he got embarrassed.
He's just starting his career.
I understand, but it's not crazy to pick somebody who has won a Super Bowl over somebody who and has been one of the greatest. If you look at Joe Flacco in the postseason, he's got one of the greatest postseason records in the history of the NFL. It's not crazy. Certainly back in January when I said it, it wasn't crazy to say, I think Joe Flacco gave the Ravens last year a better chance to win in the playoffs than Lamar Jackson did.
But it was crazy to say, I think this guy's going to have a great season, which is why Roberto and hundreds of other people lit me up and said I was an idiot. My point is, you don't know until it plays out. And he worked really hard during the offseason.
All these things are just banal cliches. Everybody just about in the NFL works hard.
Working hard is not, no, it's not a cliche, because what's the knock we always heard about Mike Vick and some other QBs? They didn't work hard enough in the offseason.
Almost every successful NFL player works hard in the offseason.
Really? Because you've said on the show before that you think a lot of athletes are lazy and don't do that much.
I said they don't work hard compared to normal people. Like,
so which one is it? Are they all working hard?
No. The average person going to work this morning in America works harder than the average pro athlete.
But we're talking about quarterbacks that are different with work ethic compared to another quarterback that came before
I don't
them.
believe there's that much difference in general in the work ethic of quarterbacks.
But you grew up in the 80s where we saw certain like NBA basketball stars, even though they would win a title, they would go off and they would insert a new skill set to their game. That's the difference, I think, between an elite player and regular guys out there on the field, steadily improving themselves season after season after season. And I think Lamar has showed us that in just one offseason, he's done something that took Mike Vick 8 seasons to get to.
Yeah, Mike Vick, to me, is a vastly superior talent to Lamar Jackson. Now,
no.
They did not build an entire offensive system around Michael Vick. Michael Vick has a bigger arm. He is, I think, faster. He was a more elite playmaker than Lamar Jackson. But I think Michael Vick came into the league at a time where he didn't have a Greg Roman, who built an entire offense specifically designed to his talents. And so it would be intriguing to see what Michael Vick would be capable of if he were 23 years old right now and he had somebody like Greg Roman to work with. Because I think Michael Vick was a different caliber of player than Lamar Jackson. But I also think you can make the argument that they are in many ways very similar, but that Vick came along too early to be able to have the full flourishment of his skills. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Lamar Jackson is better than Vick. But I don't necessarily buy it because I think Michael Vick was doing all that he did within a system that wasn't created to allow him to succeed. So the point here is I'm not sure I've ever seen a quarterback who cannot be criticized more than Lamar Jackson right now. And I do think it's intriguing to ask why that is. That people are like, oh, if you don't believe that that Lamar Jackson is going to be good forever, oh, you're a racist. Like the same thing happened with the Black Panther back in the day. Anything other than this is the greatest film that's ever been made is racist. Why are people so invested on a racial level with Lamar Jackson that they aren't with Patrick Mahomes or Russell Wilson, who might be, by the way, the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL right now? I don't hear people saying, like, you can criticize Patrick Mahomes, right? It's tough to criticize Patrick Mahomes. You can criticize Russell Wilson. It's tough to criticize both of them. But you can point to things that they have done in their career that aren't perfect because every athlete is imperfect. But if you criticize Lamar Jackson right now, it's like you are totally unacceptable. Do you guys see this? Am I the only person who sees this on social media right now?
I think there is an element of that, yes.
You see it. Like,
yes.
I mean, right now you can argue. Like, so let me say this. I think people, and I've been making this argument for a long time, people who make the argument that somebody can't do something because of their race are racist, right? Like, that's the very foundation of racism to me. And so I'm 40 years old. I was born in 1979. I grew up and saw T. Martin win a national championship with the University of Tennessee and Steve McNair the next year go to the Super Bowl with the Tennessee Titans. I might never have that level of success for the two teams that I root for, but both of those teams were led by a black quarterback. So this whole era of, like, I don't even know who these people are who say, oh, so-and-so can't succeed in the NFL because of their race. I think that's crazy. And I also think that the NFL, by and large, thinks that's crazy because as competitive as the NFL is, if you told me that we were leaving behind all these Asian people who could be incredible cornerbacks, right? Like the NFL is racist against Asian football players. Somebody would start playing all the Asian football players and they would start winning and everybody would copycat, right? So I think the NFL is such a meritocracy that regardless of what your background is, they will find you and they will put you in if you have an opportunity to win them more games. And by the way, Christian McCaffrey could be the other side of the coin, right? Christian McCaffrey, people are like, well, he's a white running back. I'm not sure that I buy into it. The guy still went number 8 overall, right? And you can argue that if you had known what Christian McCaffrey was going to be capable of, maybe he should have gone, first or second or whatever else. But the Carolina Panthers looked at his accomplishments at Stanford and said, we want this guy. It's not like he went in the 4th or 5th round. I think the NFL looks for excellence and tries to find it no matter where you are. But Eddie, you kind of agree with me? Like, I don't know that I've ever seen anything like it where if you say anything other than Lamar Jackson is the greatest player on the planet right now, somebody's going to hop on social media and call you racist.
I do think there is an element of that. I will say, though, in defense of some of those people, there wasn't a lot of discussion that I ever remember about Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes being moved to another position in the draft. I remember, I think famously Bill Polian was saying that Lamar Jackson needs to be a wide receiver or something along those lines.
But I don't even see why that's an insult. Like Trace McSorley, who is the backup quarterback now on the third string for the Baltimore Ravens, was also asked to play other positions. Like Tim Tebow was asked to play tight end. If you are athletic enough to play multiple positions, every team's not going to project that you are going to be a tremendous success at the quarterback position. Everybody has, and this is the thing I think about the NFL in general, everybody gets ripped to shreds nowadays when they come into the NFL Combine if they're a quarterback. Whether it's Daniel Jones, whether it's Dwayne Haskins, whether it will be Tua Tagovailoa, whether it will be Justin Herbert, whether it'll be Joe Burrow, it doesn't matter. If you're a first-round caliber talent, there are a ton of NFL teams who think that you're going to stink, right? Just about always. Maybe there's a few guys like Andrew Luck that seem to have almost universal agreement that guy should be the number one pick and everybody loves him. But most of the time, there are bulls and bears on every quarterback. And if you're not familiar with the bulls and bears term, it's a stock market term. If you're bullish on a stock, you like it. If you're bearish on a stock, you're opposed to it. And so there are a lot of people every year that get asked to play a variety of different positions because everybody doesn't project. Remember, Tebow is not in the NFL now because he refused to do tight end. If he played tight end, he might have played in the NFL for years and years. Who knows? So, yeah, look, there were people who didn't believe in Lamar Jackson, but that's the case every single year. I mean, clearly there were a lot of people who didn't believe in Patrick Mahomes and didn't believe in Deshaun Watson too. And they did believe in Mitch Trubisky. The crazy thing about the NFL to me is you have all these brilliant people analyzing every quarterback under the sun, trying to get the best possible quarterback for their team to win the most games that they can. And every year it's a coin flip. They spend thousands of hours, tens of thousands of hours, watching every throw these guys have ever attempted in college, watching every play that these guys have done, analyzing their every pro day, interviewing them, everything you can possibly imagine. And it's a coin flip whether or not these guys are going to succeed. It's wild.